Hello, Ajen and fellow trainers.
Hi, Rich.
Welcome to the
And from
2019 Date with Destiny Foundation Insights Mastermind.
Sharon.
um, I'll just frame some of it first, and jump in with questions as we go along. But the first frame I want to give everyone, whether it's you two listen on the call now, or whoever else listens to this video, is I remember when I was coming through as a senior leader and actually a sort of early stage trainer, I was petrified of this foundation talk. I was like, because I'm super competitive, so it's like I don't want to be bottom basically, because they used to make people do chicken dances and stuff like that when they came bottom of the foundation talk. Thankfully, that's been retired, and I really felt like it was selling stuff. It was like I felt really uncomfortable that it was always selling stuff to participants when they paid to come on a program. And there was a couple of things that got me over it. One of which was I remember I was a senior leader with Felix and Chuck Schultz in the Leadership Mastery Room. And I got to wander around watching other trainer meetings in the morning. And one of the people that I really watched a lot, just in the way that he kept on stacking and seeding his morning meetings, with Steve Linder. So a lot of this I've got to give credit to Steve in terms of this is what I kind of picked up from watching him. He was definitely the original master of the foundation talk, and I'm sure if he came back again he would be again. The key with it all is I think you're giving people choice. So for me it's about focusing on it being creating a contribution led space. So one of the things that I did in the last speech, which maybe isn't totally captured in this document, I'll put the document up in a minute as I talk through it. I really focus on talking about 6 human needs to the team fairly early on. And I talk about the fact that, for me, what works for me personally is leading with the intention of meeting my contribution need from the 6 human needs. And everything else seems to work from that. So if I focus on contribution, I always experience growth because I've got to do new stuff. I've got to experience new stuff. I've got to kind of sometimes go to my edge a little bit. I always get love and connection because I'm working with people, helping people, supporting people, whatever you want to frame it. I get a lot of earned significance from it. It's not the intention, but it does feel good when someone else expresses that they feel good because of something you said or did. Huge amounts of variety because you never quite know what's going to show up when you're serving people. And actually there's a lot of certainty behind, I know that doing this stuff makes me feel really good about what I do. And a lot of sort of my progress with the foundation talk has been a big part about many of us experience becoming a trainer and so on and so forth, which is kind of stripping back the layers and just being very open, very transparent, very you. So I'm going to explain how I do it my way, but obviously that's kind of my flavor and style. But I think the key is that there's loads of kind of strategy and stuff in here, but it's not about the strategy. It's actually about the energy that you create. So that's kind of my initial blurb on it. What I think I'll do is while we're recording this, I'll share my screen. So hopefully that will... Yeah, that shows up our thumbnails and that shows up this as well. So one of the reasons I started to create this document, and also very kindly, Tad and Vicky at the last Date with Destiny actually let me do a very 5-10 minute talk in front of the senior leaders about this, is you've got to start really, really early. So if you're leading any mention of contribution, being a difference, until the actual day of your foundation talk, I think you've missed a trick. So I start very, very early on, and it says in that first paragraph, how are they going to feel about when they contribute? I use the expression "be a difference" rather than "make a difference." I'll explain why a bit more later on. But for me, making a difference means, you've got to find stuff, you've got to kind of gather resources. Whereas being the difference is just choosing how you want to show up. A lot of it is about their identity and how they feel good about what they're doing. So for me, my kind of self-worth is very, very tied up with being a difference for people. It just is. And I'm just accepted it. And it's like, well, is that healthy? I don't know. But anyway, I said it here. It says, nearly all my speech is equal. So it's like I'm just treating the rest of and that's very much the way that I approach team meetings anyway, though, is they got to feel like you're all one. Like, me talking down at the team, telling them they need to contribute, just sucks. It's not going to work. And equally, there are times you might want to go inferior, where you show that you're going to be vulnerable and share something maybe about yourself. And probably at the end, you're going to go briefly superior, where you're going to more of a driving energy. It's an interesting one. The last contribution speech that I did, the foundation talk that I did in December last year, it was basically following this structure. It just happened to be that we were given a certain amount of time to finish the meeting at, and they actually finished the meeting 5 minutes early. Mm-hmm. And I remember when that happened, and they said, 5 minutes to go. I'm like, shit, I'm behind where I need to be. And I actually got mad. I got really mad and pissed off. But that was a good thing, because actually what it did was it made me raise my energy and really focus on the key principles of this. And it was one of my best results foundation-wise,
right,
that I've ever had. Now, talking about results, I would really encourage anyone listening to this that, let go of the number at the end, because you don't know who's in your team. Like last year, I had a couple of plats, and they both, in the meeting, they put their hands up and went, I'll donate $10,000. Sorry to interrupt you, Rich. I'm in for $10,000. And another guy went, I'll match that. Now, that's not going to happen very often. And you might have a team of people that just don't have a lot of money. So I tend to measure my success based on how many envelopes I get back. So even if someone's just gone, right, do you know what, I can do $5 a month or whatever it is, if that's what they can afford and they've been moved by your speech, I count that as success. So I think one of the important things about this whole thing is, yes, it's nice to win the foundation talk or come in the top 3 or whatever. And equally, if you've got 70% of your team back envelopes, you've done an amazing job. So I think that's an important thing to call out here. So in terms of seeding it early, what I will do is, so our first team meeting, so the one in the room at the end of day one is just chaos. So you're just trying to get heard and give your bandanas out. So the first time we're going to talk properly about it is the next morning. So the day 2 is your first proper team meeting. I'm basically honouring them. I'm honouring them for the commitment made in terms of time and money that they've contributed to be here. And I talk about I'm basically referring about them being a difference for themselves. So it's actually contributing to themselves, and about how important it is now that they take this forward and implement these skills. That's why, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm on your side, is to help you get the most out of this course. Because if people don't feel like they've got their stuff together, it's actually much less likely they'll want to contribute at the end. So there are 2 reasons, one of which I genuinely am there because I want them to get the best outcome. But also, they won't feel like they can contribute unless they feel in a stable position. And that's actually, I think that's very sensible, to be honest. Day 3, also effectively the second team meeting, I'm starting now to make reference to when they were younger. Like, can you imagine, like when you were a teenager or something like that, how great would it have been to have these skills you're learning now? I'm obviously very unsubtly seeding Gills there, Global Youth Leadership Summit. And I do ask at that point, who would you pass the skills? Who would you pass these skills to back home? And I don't ask that as a rhetorical question. I actually do ask the team, like, who would you pass this back to? Bit with hands up. I've got my sons or daughters or my nephew or what have you. So I'm actually getting them thinking about a community just slightly wider than themselves. It's a bit like when Tad often does a closed eye at the end of our trainer meetings. He talks about focusing attention and widening it. That's basically what we're doing in these series of talks. I'm now starting to stack the concept. The third team meeting, which is on day 4, this is really, really important one, because probably the most important bit is that you are framing them to get to the meeting tomorrow, the final one where you do your foundation talk. You're trying to get as many to them as possible, and whether it's you get them there 10 minutes early, give them extra content, whichever way you want to do it. Now, obviously, that applies to all the other team meetings. Sometimes we struggle a bit to get people to the meetings. You know, one of the best ways to have a successful foundation talk is to get most of your team there. So that's a big part of it, is really encouraging attendance, really making sure that, you know, almost that the ones that don't come over the day start to realize they're missing out on something. So I will often send a note round saying, oh, thanks very much for the meeting this morning. Loved it. Enjoyed the shares. Make sure you're here tomorrow. And I'll keep doing that every day. So then the ones that thought I'll have a lie-in realize that actually they're missing a significant part of the event.
Yeah. What content do you teach?
Any sorts of stuff, really. I mean, generally, I'm going to make it. Hey, Sharon.
Hey, finally.
Generally,
sorry. Keep on.
Yeah, the content in meeting. Obviously, I'm going to make it Robbins relevant, yes. But I might just kind of unpack things a little bit more. So I might give them kind of my take on something they've learned the previous day, or I might teach them a bit of Robbins content, or remind them a bit of Robbins content that was at UPW, or that's in Awaken the Giant Within, or something like that. So I think it's important to stay on point, but it's expansion thereof. Or I might maybe teach them a little bit of NLP or something like that, because obviously I've done NLP training, but I think it's just stuff I think, oh, I wouldn't have got that if I just being in the room.
Okay.
So I want to give them a reason. So I'm then in that team meeting 3, which is day 4, so the day before the foundation talk, I'm going to talk more about really then start to think about contribution and how could you be a difference with these skills? How could you take it into the community, particularly young people? How could you be of influence when you go back home, basically? So I'm pushing contribution fairly strongly there, and yes, I said before, it's really important that they know that the meeting tomorrow's is if they're going to come to that one. Now, normally we hold the foundation talk at the end of the meeting, so that does help because sometimes people drift in. But I'm pretty much standard. I'll say come 10 minutes early, and I'm going to give you some extra stuff, and I'll just work out what that stuff might be. Or I might even actually ask them, what sort of stuff would you like to know about? And I say, okay, let's do some stuff on that tomorrow morning.
Good idea.
All the way through the team meetings, if someone mentions anything or share anything like that relates to contribution, I'm going to go really strong on it. And there is a reason for that. I'm not doing it because it's like I want to get a good foundation total. I'm doing it because I personally, focusing on this stuff has just been massively beneficial for me in so many different areas. So I think it's good for them, but also they're really starting to get the concept that contribution actually is huge. One of the senior leaders, actually, Steve Fleming's done some analysis on the 6 human needs, and he's looked at leading with contribution. It actually does make a lot of sense. So he'll probably be at date with Destiny Cairns. Cool. Any questions on that first bit? So it's like always delivering stuff from equal, seed it early and often, try and get as many people as you can to the team meeting, just encourage them, make them realise that it's something they paid for. And, I personally think it's a significant part of the value of Date with Destiny. So, and then I'm just progressing each day, just progressing that a little bit more, making it, about them, then about their family, then kind of about a wider community, and then obviously then the final day, the foundation talk, I'll make it a lot wider. All good?
Yeah, good. Really good.
There have been times on the actual foundation talk itself, which is obviously day 5, there have been times when we've done the foundation talk at the start and things like that. I generally don't recommend that. Because I've seen a lot of training sort of worry about, I want to get everything else in, so then the foundation talk can get compressed. The biggest problem with doing the foundation talk at the end is that it's really easy as a trainer to think, right, I'm done. I've got the envelopes in, and we'll do loads of team chants and cheers and stuff, and it kind of will throw off another team that's just finishing up. So I would generally sort of ask all the teams on the foundation talk day to wrap up their meeting a little bit quieter, because I've had chants going on next to me. I've had teams walking through my meeting while I'm about to talk about the envelopes and stuff like that. Even though I've been on time, they just finished early, so it's just a bit of sensory acuity in terms of what to do. So I generally want to allow at least 15 to 20 minutes. I think the more I do this, I'm trying to do this talk in about 20 minutes, which may not be officially what's recommended. It works for me. I just make sure that I get through the other stuff that needs to be done at the start of the meeting, because you want to be able to get your talk done, get the envelopes out, have people time to finish the envelopes and feel like they're not rushed in terms of getting into the room. Because as soon as people start to see others moving to the room, they don't want to fill out their envelope there and then they want to get their seat. So, which is totally understandable. So, yeah.
Rich, do you collect you try to collect all the envelopes before you leave the meeting?
I try. That's probably accurate, even though we don't like to use the word try in this environment. The more envelopes that I can collect in the meeting, generally the better success that I get.
I agree.
Because people are emotionally... Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I think Tammy's process with that is the same thing, while people are in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, you're emotionally attached to...
people during the day trying to get their envelopes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Now, there are legitimate reasons why people need to go and get the card from their room or things like that. That's cool. Generally, the longer you leave it, people are less emotionally attached to it. Now, I do still get a significant proportion of envelopes during the day, and that is part of it. I'll talk about that later on. But basically, I'm sending notes around throughout the day, going thank you people for their contribution, with a little bag asking for envelopes. I actually will get the senior leads to take it around. I don't tend to let that one sort of wander through the group by itself, so I'll get the senior lead to go around with the bag. But yeah, try and get as many envelopes in as you can. Does make a big difference. I generally don't recommend taking questions or shares during the talk. If there are any questions, I will generally say, look, we'll get the envelopes out, and if you've got questions when I've got the envelopes out, because then people can get on filling it out, then I can answer the questions. And if you are being supported by, say, a senior leader, or maybe even a leadership mastery person that's in your team, you need to be really clear about what they're going to say, get them to rehearse it. I mean, it depends. I'm a bit more laid back about this sort of stuff, but I want to know very, very clearly what they're going to say. And I'll get them to say, write those bullet points down on the card and deliver that, because there is a tendency of people to start to expand. And equally, don't eliminate the possibility that there could be someone really strong in your team that's got Gil's references and so on and so forth. I mean, my strongest reference to this is Dennis Lindbergh. I mean, when Dennis was leadership mastery, he might even be a participant, actually, I'm not sure, but it was Tenerife in about 2014 or something like that. He basically was on Brigitte's team, and him and Brigitte just basically drove the process together. They absolutely smashed it. I'll talk about that a bit later on about what they did, but that, he was a resource that just wanted to step up and serve, and still does it. So Dennis is a really good person, by the way, to talk to about just different ways of doing it. Very, very strongly connected to contribution. So so then I then go into sort of the main chunk of the talk, which is the first piece is I talk about a strong story around contribution. Now, mine obviously is George and Leonore. There is a video. I've got a website there. There's a video of it on there, but
be the difference.
Yeah, be the difference today. Be the difference today, and it's just me just contemplating doing that talk, and I really feel myself. I'm going. So I go all into that. If I start crying, I start crying. If I can't speak for a few seconds because I've gone so into it, that's cool. I'm not holding back from any emotion, because I'm effectively giving people permission to feel the kind of depth of humanity in which we live. And then, it's just, for me, it was that my foundation talks since 2014, when that all happened, it's just complete, it's night and day, basically. So if you don't have a story like that, and most people won't, I guess, because I didn't before then. I'll do it. I'll do the basics of it now, just so you get an idea of it. But it's a contribution based story that moves people emotionally, and it has to be something that you can really relate to. Now, before this happened, I would actually tell a story of another trainer. I'm trying to remember whose it was. I'm pretty sure it was Claire Barron's. It was a Gills related story. And it just really touched me when she told me the story. It really touched me. So I then started telling that story. But obviously, I mean, I know you guys got all sorts of references that you could use, but I think if you make it personal, it's good. But equally, there is kind of obviously a bit of theme around George and Leonore. So the George and Leonore story basically is on 23rd of July 2014. I was on Facebook and I was about to go on holiday to Euro Disney, so I was up late at night. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I was meant to be leaving for Paris at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I was still up on Facebook tapping away, and I remember clearly got this message in from George saying, "Are you there?" And like, I'd so often, if I get something like that, I think, I should be in bed. I'll ignore it. And I remember thinking, months and years later, what if I'd ignored that message? It would have been, I just don't even know what would have happened. So obviously I said yes. And one of the reasons I said yes was that previous year, Leonore had been treated in hospital for kidney cancer. Wilms disease, I think it was called. George can check me the details on that. But and it's a really treatable cancer if you catch it early, and they just hadn't. So they were even ongoing treatment, and because I had not heard much, I thought things were okay. And then he said to me, "Look, we just come back from the hospital, and the hospital have told us that the cancer's terminal, and there's nothing they can do apart from make her comfortable and wait for the inevitable to happen." And I'm like, I just felt like the bottom had dropped out of my world. I've got 4 children of my own. I can't imagine. That's always your biggest nightmare as a parent is, what if something happened to my kids? And then the next bit was, he said, if we get to Germany, then there's some revolutionary treatment that might help, but it's going to cost 30,000 euros plus all the other expenses and so on and so forth. So he'd spent so much time off work supporting the family that he's not in a position to fund that. And he said, the first person I thought of to help me sort out the money side of it was you, Rich. I'm like, shit. He's like, something like, here's a lot of responsibility. Do you want it? You're not going to turn around and say no. And I remember very, very clearly saying to him, that for me, I guess that was the first time that I'd ever really felt the concept of being committed to something. And I guess this helps the team as well to hear that. Is like, you know what, when I contribute to someone outside of myself, that's the only time that I'm ever truly all in. Like, I know that I show up differently at a Robbins event when I'm serving other people, because it's just I'm just all in on something, because I just want to be a difference to people. So yeah, so this is 23rd of July 2014, and it's etched on my memory forever, really. And so I said, yeah, okay, book your flights. I'll sort this out. My brain's going, I have no fucking clue what I'm going to do. And I do swear a lot when I do this speech, by the way. And leave it with me, sort it out, book your flights, we'll get the rest sorted out. And I'm going, shit, going to Euro Disney. We'll have shitty internet. In those days, it wasn't everywhere. How the fuck am I going to do it? Going into my head, and I'm like, right, okay. Just share the story, share the why. Put it out on social media. The reaction from like the trainer body, senior leaders, crew, and people beyond that was just phenomenal. She got like well over 100,000 likes on her Facebook page that George and his wife at the time had set up. Money just started pouring in. We got 30,000 euros in 5 days. And I always pause then because people just want to clap. And what was really cool was after 7 days, we had 40,000 euros and we thought, we don't know what to do with that extra money. So let's just turn the tap off for now. That's a quality problem, right? So I think it's important when giving these talks just to kind of lighten it as well. Because people like a bit of humor is like, if you go heavy, it's just like, and a story I don't often share, but I want you to know this, and I want other people to know this as well. And I won't name who it is, but there was a trainer in the Robbins environment who, as soon as he found out what was going on, he said, I will cover that 30,000. If you need it now, I will cover it until you have time to raise the money. Straight away. So I can feel myself going there now, and this is exactly where I go to in the speak. Every time I see that person, I always try and remember to thank him for doing that, because that gave us certainty that we were going to get the outcome. So you know you are. Thank you very much if you watch this video. So we got to Germany, got the treatment. It was going really, really well. Now, that was really cool was this little girl was in so much pain that all she was doing was sharing videos and photos of her just being so happy and just beaming out love and light and happiness and gratitude, even though she's going through absolute shit. She was just so grateful and happy that she'd been given a chance to come to Germany with her mum and dad. And I think that was a lesson to everyone, really, was it was stopped being about the money. It started being about being the difference, about what does it feel like to contribute to someone. And taking a lesson from this little girl that no matter what life deals you, you can choose how you respond. And that was magical. That was really magical. And people were doing all sorts of things. I mean, Jan Stevens helped run an auction for us. People were donating money left, right, and centre. Expertise, all sorts of things. So I don't want to pick out anyone else in particular, but it was just phenomenal, really. This whole this movement, like just this feel good factor, really. The only time I've ever seen it outside a Robbins event was probably 2012 Olympics in London, because it was on my home turf. It was just this amazing feel good factor was generated, and it was all going really, really well. And then things went downhill pretty fast. She the treatment just wasn't taking, and I remember very clearly. I think it was the start of September that year. I was actually at a Life Wealth in. Actually, that would have been in Tenerife. That would have been the one where I met Dennis, and people were doing that trance dancing stuff, whatever it's called. I can't remember what we call it. So it was all like this kind of weird sort of high vibe and stuff going on. And I get a message through telling me that she died. It was such a surreal. Thank you, Sharon. Such a surreal feeling, being in this sort of happy, high vibe going on. I'm like, fuck! Like my whole world's falling out of my just the bottom just falling out of my world, really. And I definitely swear at this bit in the talk. I just go, fuck. It's like, fuck you, basically, to the universe. How dare you? And then the second thing that came to my head was I've failed. It's like that whole point was George had asked me to help, raise the money, get her there. We did that. So we did succeed. But of course the outcome was then she gets cured. I'm like, you fuckers, really? And it didn't take me long sitting with that to think, well, I know that George won't react like that. And I really let that sit with the participants, by the way, when I deliver that piece. It's like, fuck, for fuck's sake. And then George went, right, okay, I've got to give this meaning. If this doesn't have meaning, then it is tragic. So that's why he's gone out and shared his message. I mean, he watched his video and he knows how I feel about him. But his response to the death of his only daughter was just fucking phenomenal. That he just went, I've got to give this meaning. I've got to go out and help people with their message. And he shared the sort of the messages from Leonore's life, how she conducted her life. That, you know what, she didn't need to be here very long to communicate her message of kind of love and light and happiness and gratitude and love. Particularly, we always called her because she loved Disney princesses and stuff like that. So we always called her the Pink Princess. And it's really funny that every time I deliver this talk, I always see something pink pop up. So I've just had something in my Facebook pop up and had pink in it, just when I'm just talking about it. Mm. So I thought me sitting there and wallowing in self-pity and fuck you universe and I've failed was not helpful. So I thought, how do I turn this into something else? And so I started talking about Leonore in the foundation talks about the impact that girl had had. So we contributed to her and her family with money to get her there, but she more than delivered that back multiple times through how she showed up and like just showing us the way. Like how a lot of us show up as children, we just forgot it. Basically, forgot that that's the way that we are fundamentally, is love and light, happiness, gratitude, etc. So what was interesting was, so the first time I shared that message properly was at Leadership Academy that year, at my first foundation talk, and I'm trying to remember the numbers now, but it was, I think our team raised about 4 times more than anyone else. And I remember Tad coming up to me and saying, "What did you do?" So apparently I am actually seeding the concept of I hadn't even thought of that before. I'm actually seeding the fact there's a foundation talk and we're in it. But I'm actually talking about the process to the team now. And I said to Tad, it wasn't necessarily what I did, it's who I chose to be and the space I encouraged other people to be in. Because it's a being space. It's not a doing space. It's far from it. It's a heart space. And I just said, look, I just shared a story. I just shared what contribution really means to me. And it's not about money. And equally, donating money is really helpful sometimes because it helps to do stuff. And I remember Tad said to me, could you share that with the others at the next talk in December? Could you share it with the other teams? I went, yeah, cool. No problem at all. And I'll be brutally honest, like I'm super competitive. I freaking love winning the foundation talk. A part of me's going, if I share what I did, I might not win. Oh dear, that's probably a bit too honest. And equally, I love a bit of competition as well. So what was really interesting was I show up Date with Destiny and I've got a Japanese team. I thought that's cool. And one of my senior leaders is Chris Okazaki. He's obviously a very flamboyant guy, very charismatic guy. And I said to Chris, look, in this, we're gonna seed the foundation throughout, and at the end of the week we'll do the foundation talk. And he said, okay, we've got a bit of a problem here because Japanese culturally don't have a lot of reference to charity. Just doesn't really how the society works. And also Japanese that come here very head based, so they're processing up here. And I went, oh, so first thought was, oh fuck. Second thought was, okay, well, I went from headspace to heart space in a number of years of being in the Robbins environment, so let's just do it in a week. And that was my intention. So I shared a lot of stories with that team around my own experience of being in headspace and what the benefits were and when I still use it, but also what the benefits were of moving to heart space. And do you know what? They totally got it. They're like, it's the most playful and fun team I've ever had. I would, if someone wanted me to volunteer to a Japanese team again, I would grab it with both hands because they were just a phenomenal group of people to work with. And then the day before the foundation talk, Chris comes up to me, throws me a curveball and said, I've been so moved by working with you this week. I'd like to do the foundation talk tomorrow. And I'm like, I do the fucking, in my head, I do the fucking foundation talk. That's my thing. And he talked about the fact that Japanese teenage suicide or young people's suicide is very, very high. And he wanted to talk about that. And he would talk about Leonore as well. And he wants to do it to all the Japanese teams. I think we had about 2.5, 3 teams. I think I seem to remember there were at least, I think there were 3 teams and maybe another half a team or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was about 180 people, something like that. Maybe even more. And, I look about it and go, look, you're Japanese. You're going to do it in your language. It's totally the right thing to do. And I just gave him a few pointers in terms of how to do it. And he delivered this talk in front of this just sea of Japanese people. And I'm getting it all translated in by my other scene leader, Motoko's speaking in my ear. And I'm seeing Chris talk. I'm seeing these head-spaced, apparently Japanese, crying their eyes out. I'm getting the delay of about a couple of seconds. I'm crying my eyes out. And I remember that all the Japanese teams came really high up in the foundation. We actually came top. We raised like $180,000. But the whole that event where, you know, we trained some of the other teams in terms of some key principles, which are kind of this document, but maybe in a sort of more condensed format. That was I think it was $1.4 million with not very big numbers. And that was just amazing. It's like, right, now it's really rippling because not only am I doing it or George is doing it, it's just going out there now. And so there's a massive knock-on benefit. And I'm going, well, that's really honouring Leonor's life because it's raising a lot of money for the foundation and creating a lot of possibility. The final bit of that piece, which is, well, actually, there's two final bits, actually. The cool bit was there was a Date with Destiny Australia the next year, 2015, which I didn't go to. And I can't remember who it was, asked me for this document and some details around it. I sent it down there. And they did their own training around it. And they had a record Date with Destiny Australia at that time. I think it was something like about $800,000. And it was like per person, it was at least on a par with the American one, if not more. So that was phenomenal. So then I don't even have to be here. It's just getting out there. Then people are getting it. And then the only other funny one was the last one just gone in December. Was I'm looking around going, there's like 76 teams or whatever. I'm like, right, come on, Waterman, let's bring your A game here because like that. So if you can come top out of 76, you're doing well. And you've got a plat team. So those that are listening that have plat or diamond teams, you might be thinking, particularly plat teams. You know, I had the reference, which was platinum partners go to a lot of events. They're always getting asked for money all the time. And yes, some of them might have a lot of money, but it probably gets a bit boring for them. And I'll talk about that in a second about charity fatigue. But I definitely had a reference like, if I've got a plat team, how's that going to go? Now, my experience with plat teams is you just lay it on the line and come from that full-on emotional, and very important you do an equal stance with plats, because if you go superior with plats, is not going to work. They're going to basically give you the finger, to be honest. And equally too inferior won't work with plats because they won't have the respect for you. So my last experience with a plat team, just a phenomenal energy team. I had a couple of guys that were very, very high energy. And I was giving this talk, and then towards the end, one of them put his hand up and said, "Sorry to interrupt you, Rich." I'm thinking, oh gosh, where's this going to go? Is it going to be a share or a question? And he went, "I want to donate $10,000. If the team raised $10,000, I'll match it." And I went, "Holy shit!" I actually started crying. I'm like, I'm so just privileged to have you in my team. And thank you so much for doing that. Another guy went, "Yeah, I'm in for 10,000 as well." And I'm like, "Fucking hell, this is cool." So plats do, if you get the right plats, that anything's possible with them. So that was cool. So my outcome was, it'd be really cool to come top out of 76. And I remember when the numbers are coming out, I think, I might be top 3, top 5. And there's all this extra stuff started coming in. So I raised 2.5 times the second team. And I think I know why. And I sort of, it was to do with this piece of them. They gave us a cut-off for the meeting, and they actually shortened it by 5 minutes. So it completely fucked up my talk. Well, in my head, it fucked up my talk. And all I did was I went faster with more energy. So I went proper full-on contribution rant. So you don't have to deliver this. In fact, I would encourage you not to deliver this from a low energy. You can go there where you have the dip. You know, obviously when I'm sharing about Lean or Die, I'm giving people that time just to sit and process with it. Equally, I'm throughout the talk, I'm giving them opportunities to sort of come out and a bit of light relief before they then associate back down again. But it doesn't have to be low energy. And I think that's what I learned in the last talk was actually when I really just, I kind of went off script. I knew what I wanted to say and I went, right, I've got 5 minutes. I've got to hammer this. And for some reason, it's got a phenomenal result. Yeah, so I'll tell that story. Just let them sit with it. Or you tell your equivalent story. Then I go into point 2, which is I just want to call it out. I just put on the fact of charity fatigue, and this is I'm gonna do this from an inferior stance. Because I'm gonna say, look, I've been times where I'm going to the supermarket, people are asking me for money, and I pretend I've already given to them, or I'm done, I'm full, I don't want to give any more. So I felt that, I've seen it where adverts come up for charities on TV, and I'm criticising the quality of the advert rather than allowing myself to associate with the issue or challenge. So I'm just being honest. Particularly if there's people that have already been through some other Master University events before. I said you might well have been asked for money for the foundation loads of times. So this is not about me trying to force you or persuade you into giving more money. It's not about that. It's about you associating with contribution and doing what's right for you. It's always about choice, not obligation. So I think that's a bit that I added in a few years ago, and I think that's really, really, really important. You're going to have competitive people in your team. So point 3 is just honouring that, because I am too. I'd say, look, I'm super competitive. If you raise the most money, we get to sit very near the front of the room. You have to be careful about how you frame that, because the plat teams will always be somewhere near the front. So you don't want to give them the expectation they're going to be right at the front. But so, it's kind of cool. And equally, it shouldn't really be about that. But equally, you know what? It's quite fun having a bit of friendly competition, because if we have friendly competition with other teams, we might all raise more money. But so it's not about me winning. It's about us as a team deciding how we want to contribute. And to that end, I let go of it, because I don't want to run this process. I want you to run the process. So are there people that, as I'm doing this talk, are thinking I'd like to facilitate the team raising money? And you nearly always get a couple of people put their hands up. And if they don't, it's fine. Okay, I'll leave that to you to think about that. Because at the end, I'm going to ask for some volunteers to take the envelopes out and also to collect them back in. That kind of, we're all in it together. We are, as a team, are raising the money rather than Rich telling us to give money is really important. Really, really important. Then I go into, I pretty much always will deliver this bit, these bullet points. So I just talk about, is the world in pain? I'm generally going to look for a response from that. Is the world in pain right now? Does it need new leaders? Could we create a new generation of leaders? So I'm seeding gills here. And then also referring back to the stories with, Leonore and raising money in leadership, and then Japan and Australia and so on and so forth. So, what if we could just drop another pebble of contribution into the water and just watch ripples go out? And I always do the hand gestures with that. So just let that sit with people. And I said, what's really cool about it, you just never know. When you contribute, you actually just don't know how far that ripple goes. And you might see the immediate effects of it, but you don't know where it stops. Because as a whole universe, we're connected. And I really like that concept. It's like, shit, you just don't know. Then I start to go into Gil's bit. So I say, so who has kids? And if they don't put their hands up, okay, who was a kid? That's another light moment. And who would have wanted these tools when they were younger? I probably actually don't use the word kid anymore, but younger, or as a child, young adult, whatever. And I said that one of the things that Tony Robbins Foundation supports many things. I often talk about this piece, about prisons and community projects and stuff, but generally Gil's is the one that people seem to be more emotionally associated with. So we invest in young people. So we put them through a program called Global Youth Leadership Summit, which is, I talk about the one in California. We do one in India. Obviously, Sharon, you've been involved with one in Australia, haven't you? Which is equivalent sort of thing, yeah?
Yep. 10-year anniversary this year.
Oh, very cool. Now, what's really funny is I've never had an opportunity to go to any of these. It always clashes with stuff that I do. Rand Henderson thinks it's hilarious that I raise so much money for the foundation and never been to a Gills. It will happen. I just have to bin some quite important stuff that I normally do, and it's all good. So just giving the details around it, about being 14 to 17, helping to boost their leadership skills so they can go back and change their lives and the communities in which they live. Talking about the fact that, we do choose people to come, people that we think are going to make an impact when they go back. That it's like a date with destiny for young people. I think the latest time I did this document, it was about $750. It might be $800 now, but it's just worth checking with the foundation what the number is. But it doesn't really matter. But as long as they get a rough idea of how much it costs for a kid to go. Last year, Vinu had a young person who really wanted to go to Gills and hadn't raised from quite a relatively poor background. She told me the story, and I'm like, well, if I can't go to Guilds, I can pay for that person to go. So I chucked like $750, $800, I can't remember what it was, into the foundation. And what was really cool was this young lady wrote me an email afterwards. Didn't expect it. I didn't even think she had my details. I actually told people that I don't care if you tell them my name or not. I got this email back saying how much it impacted and so on and so forth. So yeah, for me, that was really cool to have that personal association with it. But it's about creating new leaders, about those leaders then becoming mothers and fathers themselves, or aunts and uncles, or so on and so forth, and this ripple going out. So for me, it's really important for them, the participants, to associate with the fact you're part of something bigger than them. It's not about you giving money, that's it. It's being part of this ripple. Now, if you've been to Guilds, or you know trainers that have been to Guilds, I would ask them to, or senior leader as well, because a lot of the senior leaders actually lead teams. I would ask them for an emotional story from that. My story actually is when I actually ran a little mini Guilds at a local school. I actually was doing something weekly. I was doing like a few hours a week for a few weeks with these kids. So I tell a story that I'm very emotionally associated with. If you don't have your own story, I would just go and talk to a number of trainers, get some stories. Maybe one of the things, I know James Green was really keen on us gathering resources around this. Maybe we can get trainers to either write or record their stories. And then I think as a trainer, your smart thing is to pick one that, gosh, that really got me. Because if it gets you, then you can retell the story and it will get other people as well. So my one is about a little kid. It would have been, how old was he? Probably about 10 or 11, called Alex. He had Asperger's syndrome. He felt really alone and isolated. No one loves me. I haven't got any friends, etc. And I was just trying to kind of pick him up a bit. And I said, well, you know what? I saw how his mum interacted with him. And I said, well, I'm sure you love mums. Your mum loves you. I've seen how she treats you. And he just looked at me going, I don't even know what love is. I have no concept of. I'm based on what you're telling me, it makes sense. But he just couldn't emotionally associate with the emotion of love. I felt just absolutely dreadful. First of all, I made an assumption. Second of all, was like, what would it feel like not to know what love is? So we worked together for a few weeks, and then this one day he just ran up to me, this massive smile on his face, going, "Look, I know I'm different. I know I'm unusual. I know that I probably will always have a fairly unusual group of friends." And I think he used to call himself a freak. He said, "That's great. I like being a freak, and I'm going to have freaky friends too." And I'm like, "That's pretty cool." And he said, "But the most thing," he says, "I now know that my mum loves me. I can feel it." And I'm like, fucking hell, that's fucking awesome. So something emotional there, because then you're kind of going into a logistics piece, which I actually then hold up the foundation envelope, and I take the slip out. And I say that, look, I would suggest, and I said it, but at the end of the day, you're running it, not me, that we as a team decide how many kids we want to send to Guilds each year. You might have your own individual target as a participant, but knowing that the cost is about $750, maybe $800 per participant, what we could do is work out, what would be an average monthly donation to make that happen. We can send people to that. So I'm immediately moving people towards monthly donations. I haven't checked with the foundation recently. I know they've started to change this a little bit. They used to, if someone put unlimited monthly, sorry,
60 is the maximum.
60, is it? Yeah. I know there are occasions where they've even said they're not even going to do that, because sometimes people.
Oh, okay.
What you don't want is people, donating $50 a month for 5 years or unlimited. I generally say, look, if you're not sure what to do, I generally would make it unlimited in terms of like there is no end to your contributions. You can always choose to change it or stop it. That's cool. But what people were doing were just slapping in a big monthly amount so that it would count for 5 years. It would inflate the team total, and then they'd end up cancelling after a few months. So I'm very big now on saying, look, whatever donation you choose to make, it's got to make sense for you. Okay, the foundation needs consistency. The foundation doesn't need to think, suddenly we might have all this money, and they start making plans, and then people cancel their donations. So I said, it's got to be something that might be a stretch for you. But I don't want you to donate out of your means. It just doesn't make sense. It's not about winning. Okay. So I lay that on pretty thick now, because the foundation had a couple of quite bad experiences, I think, with people either donating large amounts of money up front or large monthly donations and then pulling it, which is a shame. I talk about the fact that some people want to donate more, some less, whatever's right for you. Any donation makes a difference. You can be you can be the difference with any donation. And I said you can make a one-off contribution. That's cool. But let me explain why I prefer monthly. And I say this is why I do monthly as well. It's a really great anchor on your bank statement that you're making a difference in the world. You're being a difference in the world. I often will use the two phrases together because people are very familiar with the term making a difference, but I'm also reminding them about being the difference. One thing I haven't mentioned actually, I'll just chuck it back in there. I've sort of gone slightly out of time track here, but when I talk about the stories about raising money at Leadership Academy and then the Japanese team at Date with Destiny and then the Australian one, one of the pieces that I often will put in there if time allows is I talk about my own journey and I say, look, after all that had happened that year, I was thinking, what does it mean for me? So I saw George going out here, being the difference for everyone. And I remember it was a Boxing Day, 2014 Boxing Day, where I was driving along in my car and I was thinking, make a difference, mate. Make a difference. It's not making a difference because it's not, you don't need to get stuff together to contribute. You just have to show up. Well, be a difference. Yeah, be a difference makes more sense. Okay. And then I've been playing around with websites and domain names and stuff like that. And all these new ones are coming out like .coach and .biz and .today. I thought today's quite cool. I like the idea of being in the now. I went, be the difference today. It was like, boom, just hit me in the head. I'm like, holy shit, be the difference today. And I remember I was driving to Boxing Day to go and pick up my kids. And I'm like, fuck, I've got to pull over here. Pulled the car over to the side of the road. And I was like, be the difference today. Holy shit. And I just burst into tears. All these cars are whizzing past me. And I thought, look, this parked car. I'm just literally just sobbing. There's obviously everything that was coming out from the whole experience that year. And I'm thinking, oh, these cars are driving past with this guy crying, this 40-something-year-old man crying in his car. And I think he's probably got socks again for Christmas. So I always make a joke about socks because it just kind of lightens the mood because it's been pretty heavy to that point. But that's where Be the Difference Day came from, is I started to think about how does that work. And when I give a talk about Be the Difference Day, and if I have time in the foundation talk, I will talk about this. There's three elements. There's I, you, and we, and then there's past, present, and future. So the order I do it in normally is I say, look, when you're contributing, you have to start with yourself. You have to start with I. And what you need to do, and I nearly always will mention this bit in some format, it's a question of how I expand it. I think in terms of past stuff, we all need to celebrate how we have been a difference individually. So spending time each day to think, how was I the difference either today or how was I the difference in the past? Spend time doing that. So one of the things I do, just so you all know, at Date with Destiny and other events, I've got a little note on my phone. Every time I do something really cool or someone thanks me or I think, oh, that was good, I put it in my phone. And I'm celebrating my success all the time. Because obviously what I'm doing, I'm reminding my brain do more of it. That's past. How was I the difference? A big one for me is present. How am I being the difference? And this is actually a gift that a couple of trainers gave me, Parjoof and Jason Schlesinger in particular. When I was a senior leader, they were saying, you've got amazing presence, Rich, and sometimes you come into a room and no one notices you, and we don't know why. It's like you're off. And so that all started from there. There was like, what triad am I running for being present? So I have a rule at events. If I'm in my room or in the toilet, I'm off. And every other time I'm on. So I know that I can be the difference just being present for people. So that's how I contribute to people, is being present in the moment. And that's important, I think, to tell the participants that as well, because that, again, that will bring them into the present when you say that. And contribution does come from being present. And then the other cool bit is then talking about how will I be the difference? So that's forward planning, like, or how could I be the difference? Just thinking about cool stuff you could do. And the more you think about it, the more you like to do it. So that's the I bit. How was I different? Celebrate. How am I being the difference? Being present. How will I be the difference? Just creative and looking forward to stuff, future pacing stuff. Then I move to we. Now, we is really important for the group that you've got in front of you when you're doing the foundation talk, which is, you know, if you've got teams or groups, how were we the difference? Celebrate that. How are we being the difference? Now, my team's called the Wolf Pack, and I always go like, how are we as the Wolf Pack being a difference in this room? How will we be the difference through our foundation contribution? How will we be the difference when we go back into that room with our energy? How will we be the difference after this event for each other and maybe for our wider community? So that's more about a team thing. My favorite thing about Be the Difference today is you. So I love it. So I was very grateful. I had a very, very powerful family upbringing. So I was in an environment where people would tell me how, so you were the difference for me, Rich, or you made a real impact on me. So the past bit of you is you tell someone you really were the difference for me when you did that thing, or when you just sat with me and supported me, or we don't tell each other enough. Even in the trainer body, we don't tell each other enough about, you know, when I was a senior leader and you're my trainer, you supported me and encouraged me so much. I just wanted to tell you that. So I don't think I ever explicitly told you the impact you had on me, or with Vicky or Tad running a particular training session that had that impact, or a member of your family, wherever it was. You were the difference. You can tell people in your lives right now how you are being the difference. You are the difference for me right now. You are having a significant impact on the quality of my life just by you being you. And the favourite bit of all these 9 different combinations, I, we, you, and past, present, future, is how will you be the difference going forward? So I see these gifts in you. I see this genius in you. And I know through that you will be the difference going forward. And I always talk to my team about that bit, because it's like, shit, that's so true. And I said, that's when we send people to Global Youth Leadership Summit, we see the gifts and genius in them probably before they do. And so we're bringing that out. And I've got multiple references. I'm super grateful. I've got so many great friends in the trainer body now. And some of them I spotted at Leadership Mastery. And I went up to them, I told them, I said, you need to stay in this because you're going to be phenomenal. A couple of Eric Roth. I will often share the story about Eric Roth. I spotted Eric in Leadership Mastery. It wasn't difficult. Tremendous energy. Rob Rell was a participant on my team. Said, you've got to join leadership. Yeah, so I forgot about that bit. So that's bit I always talk about that. I normally put that as part of the Leonore story. Being the difference today, then people really get it. Go, oh, yeah, I know a way to use this, because sometimes contribution is a bit kind of floaty. So yeah, anchors on your bank statements, positive reminder of what you're doing, the difference you're being and making. If you don't put an end, I show the contribution, I show them the monthly bit, and I say, look, so this is the monthly bit here. You can choose to make it not have no end date. I'd recommend doing that because you can always change it. And then I start to give them some numbers, not too many. I don't want to get them to go too left brain, but I'll say, look, $13 a month would be about $780 over 5 years. That's one kid going to Gills every 5 years. Or $50 a month for 60 months. That's $3,000. That's about 4 kids to Gills every 5 years. So I'm just giving them some idea of different contribution levels they could give. To be honest, if every single person in your team starts giving, the equivalent of a few $100s, I'm like, basically winning teams tend to get sort of tens of thousands of dollars. So you can sort of divide that up and you can work that backwards, but it's actually not massive amounts of money per person. It might be sort of $600 to $1,000 commitment. Obviously over several years, you work that back to monthly contribution. It's not a lot of money. So it's more about numbers of people getting engaged rather than size of contribution. So Brigitte and Dennis, Brigitte was a trainer on the team. Dennis, I think, was leadership master. He might even have been a participant. They started to draw equivalents. They said, look, if they talk about spaghetti meals for some reason. I went, look, what was smart was they didn't talk about sacrificing their meal. It was more, they started to evolve it more towards, well, if you did that once a month, like $30 to $50, just give that money to the foundation. You can do both. So just starting to look at what's comparable stuff. Yeah. Would I want to support global youth leadership for the equivalent of a spaghetti meal every month? Yeah, probably would. Dennis, I remember, talked about, well, if you want to give up the meal, you can come to my house and I'll give you a meal. And you know what, he would. He actually would do that. I often talk about, I think it's a Steve Linder thing, equivalent things, coffees each day, sort of $3-5, whatever it is. What that might be in terms of monthly contribution might be equivalent to $90 a month for 5 years. That would, as a team, we could raise $300,000 doing that, which no one ever has. I don't think so anyway. Maybe they have. That'd be 400 kids going to Gills. I then talk about other ways you can contribute. Sometimes there's silent auctions is very common. So remember to put your team number on that. Sometimes you can have a photograph with Tony. And I don't think that's quite as common now. So I mentioned about silent auctions, another way to do it. And I just slow everything down, get everyone to take a deep breath, put their hands on their heart. I usually get them to close their eyes. I just say, look, you're leaders. I'm not going to tell you what to do. When you give more, you find more. Whatever you donate will make a difference, but you need to choose to be the difference. And then I just go, open their eyes. I thank them for their time, thank them for listening, ask for a couple of volunteers to run it, for them to get together and decide, is there a team number they want to go for, get the envelopes out as quickly as possible. So I've prepped my senior leaders and stuff to get them out, but I'm also helping the team to get them out as quickly as possible. Oh, by the way, when I've held the slip and envelope in, I've told them about the logistics. So you've got to write the team number on the front. They keep the yellow slip. They fill out, after having filled it out, the white slip goes in the envelope and it gets sealed by them. That's really important. We don't want envelopes being opened up after that by anyone apart from the participant or the foundation. Collect as many in as I can. Send several notes around each day, thanking them. If I get a total update on the screen, I'll tell the team what the total is, where we're at, just in case some of them be interested in that. Keep thanking them. Keep looking to collect envelopes in. Get whatever envelopes I've got in as early as I can to the foundation. I'm not going to hold on to them and wait in one bulk. I'm just going to keep just taking them in. So I'll take my first lot in after the meeting, take that straight to the foundation. If I get 4 or 5 in, the next sort of time I send a note in, I'll send those in. If I get a couple more, send those in. So I'm not waiting. I just get them in there because the foundation want to start counting as early as they can. So just get that in. And I apologise. I've realised I spent an hour and 10 minutes talking about the foundation. So, questions? I'm slightly obsessed with this, you might have realised.
There wasn't much detail on that, no.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll do an expanded version with the half-day seminar.
That was so good.
Thank you. It's all about intention. It's all about intention.
Yeah.
See,
Yes, it was awesome.
See me just talking about it where I go. So,
one of the questions I've got is when you go to the story.
Yeah.
And if you're in the story and then you said you get some people to share, what do you do if they, you're wanting just a quick share, but then they go so long that they have to cut everything short? Do you cut them off, or how do you wind that up to?
So if somebody wants to share and I know about it, I'm going to get that prepped before, and I'm going to tell them, look, you got this long and you mustn't go over. If someone in the team might even approach me and said, oh, I've been to Gills, so I'm going to need to grab them and say, look, got a couple of minutes, basically.
So even if they're in the talking and they go, oh, I've been to Gills, you say, hey, well, look, can you give us a quick share just for a minute or two?
Yeah.
Put time on it.
I wonder whether it might be more sensible to say, when I've got the envelopes out at the end, I'd love while people are filling out the envelopes for you to share. And I said, but yeah, it's literally, I've only got a couple of minutes just because of time constraints. It's risky. Sometimes you have a massive payoff. I've seen trainers like have had someone in their team that have told a mind-blowing story, completely changed the game.
Yeah.
I think it's high risk. So ideally, what I want for them to do is for me to be talking about contribution enough earlier on in the week that someone has stood up on day 3 or something and done that share. And then people are going, what's this skills thing? I was like, so that if you can get it earlier on in the week, so you might even want to say earlier on, look, you might even say the first meeting, say, look, we've got this thing called Global Youth Leadership Summit, which is like a mini date with destiny. Some of you may have a reference to it or may have been there. If you have, we'd love to hear from you, but I'll talk about it later on in the week. So you kind of open the loop as well. But if you can get those shares, previous meetings, that's gold dust, absolute gold dust, because you can let them go for 5 minutes if you want to. But yeah, it's a real risk. And you see it even if one of our facilitators is selling like Platt or something from the stage and you get a Platt up to talk about Platt, some of them are amazing and some of them it's just a car crash. They say, oh yeah, I've got it nailed. Yeah, I'll do it in 3 minutes, no problem. And it's 10 and they're off with the fairies. And it's like, it is a risky thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've forgotten anything. I hope not in an hour and 40 minutes.
So can you just give me like an example of how you would seed on the first day? Because I don't know, you might have said at the beginning, I missed a lot of...
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So this is a Steve Linder concept, okay, just to give Steve the credit for this, about just kind of seeding contribution all the way through. Steve gets people to his meetings very early each day and gives them huge amounts of content. It's like, if you're in Steve's team, you get so much more than a standard date with destiny.
What kind of things does he do there, just before you answer?
All sorts of, NLP mindset type stuff. And obviously, he's innovated so much stuff. That he's never short of content. And it's what he's doing, obviously, he's adding massive value to the team. So they obviously probably more inclined tend to want to give back. But more importantly, he's given them a great experience and a really great feeling around the event. And he's getting very, very high attendances. So yeah, so the first team meeting. So obviously the first one technically is normally in the room at the end of day one, and you're just shouting and getting bandanas out. Pointless. Just like I'm always trying to set a tone and energy. I'm trying to be fun and playful, while just sort of them going, yeah, I kind of like my trainer, so that's all good. That's all. I'm just trying to
feel that rapport
that they want to come the next morning, basically, because some of them just want to have a sleep. And I totally get that. So yeah, team meeting day, the first team meeting, which is effectively day 2, is I want to focus on that being the difference for themselves. And I actually will say that I just want to congratulate you on being the difference for yourself, like contributing to yourself, because you spend time and money to be here. And my job is to make sure you get the most out of this course and you can take this back home and implement.
Cool.
But I really wanted to honour you for that. And I often will get them to like I said, everyone put their hands up in the air and do this, and then pat yourself on the back. So that's all I'm doing with that. And then the rest of them, I'm just then expanding it out to like close family, the next day, wider communities. And then I'm stacking it up towards
the day. Yeah.
And I'm always looking for contribution references all the time. And that, what my primary reason for doing that is nothing to do with the foundation talk, is that just my own personal experience of doing this. And me running this Be the Difference grid, as I call it, I, we, you, past, present, future, completely changed my life.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any more for any more?
No, I think you're going to send this link out to the trainers, are you?
So I'm going to work out. the sort of the most secure way to do that.
Because as Adrian said, we wouldn't really want to get it out into the public.
Yeah. I think an unlisted YouTube will work, but I just need to double check that. If not, I'll put it in a Dropbox. I think. Yeah. Maybe Dropbox is a bit safer. But and you know what? The thing is, there's number of trainers that are really, really strong at foundation talks. This is just my way of doing it, and I normally do well. I don't always win by any means, but normally I do well. And there are other trainers that I can think of. I think recent years, I'm sure I'm going to leave people out. Dennis Lindbergh's a great person to talk to about foundation talk. James Greener loves all this side of things. Should have had him on the call really, but that's fine. I'm sure he'll forgive me. Suzanne Burns generally does very well. Foundation talks. Heidi Druscher recently always done well. If Steve Linder comes to an event, you want to grab him and squeeze him and get all the information out of him because he is like the master of this. There's loads of others that are really, really strong. It's just worth just asking around and just getting that. They might have some little tweak or different way of doing it. Oh yeah, that really resonates with me. That's the key. Is you've got to find what really, really is a 10 out of 10 for you. And if it's not 10 out of 10, leave it out. You're better off doing a shorter talk that's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I used the one because I was at the Gills.
Yeah.
When the young boy talked about his father committing suicide. So that's a really powerful one for me. But I noticed you did two. You did the one about the Lenore, and then you did another story. Yeah.
So I did the wider Leonore talk because it's massively emotional and has a wider contribution impact. And then I brought it back to that Alex story is a very, very short story, but it's more Gills relevant, even though it's not technically Gills. So I don't think you have to do two. If the Leonore story really resonates with you, then great. If not, if you just got one really powerful Gills related story, I probably would recommend that you put it in a little bit later. So I think if you're going to do one story, I probably would put it in just before I start talking about Gills.
Mm-hmm.
So probably somewhere around the Who Has Kids, Who Was a Kid, Who Want These Tools as a Kid.
Yeah. Okay.
I probably would put it in around about there. And then after you told the story, then you talk about Global Youth Leadership Summit. For me, I've kind of almost set it up with the Leonore thing, and then I just stack it with the Alex story after mentioning Gills. But if I'm going to have one story, I'm probably going to put it in just before talking about Gills. Yeah. So,
because we only have usually 35, 40 minutes max for that talk, for the whole meeting, how many shares do you take? Because to me, that shares is a really valuable one, especially on day 5. It's not, Day 6, we don't get to do shares because we're so busy with their posters and getting them done. And so you have a quick little 10-minute meeting at the end. So how do you break that up to make sure? Because that's 20. I've never spent 20, 30 minutes on a foundation talk. So
I get any sort of logistical type stuff. I'm just hammer through that. And often I'll send out a note as well, just to support it in case it was a little bit quick. I get as many shares in as I can to make sure I leave myself 20, probably average I'd say is 20 minutes. I leave myself the foundation piece.
Okay.
But you're right, is like each day for me, the shares is the most important thing because it gets the team bonded together. It gives you an opportunity. Every time someone shares in the week, I'm always unpacking it. Like what do I see in their story? And if I can relate it back to contribution or 6 human needs type stuff, or being the difference type concepts, then I'm going to do that. Again, more for the team benefit. But yeah, I'm trying to get as many shares before I do this talk. I'm trying to get as many shares in as I can.
Yeah.
While being aware of sometimes you'll get a share that just goes. And if that happens, then you're just going to have to crack on with the foundation talk. And last time proved that. So I probably did my foundation talk in 15 minutes last time because it got chopped and it worked.
Yeah. Do you talk about other things in the foundation like Basket Brigade and
yeah.
Do you as
yes.
well?
Yeah, sometimes. So yeah, I need to put that in here actually in a bit more detail. That when I talk about the foundation sports, I will talk about Basket Brigade and prisons and community projects, etc. I don't tend to expand too much on it just because I don't have as many personal references. But I think if you've personally been involved in Basket Brigade, obviously I've gone along and helped out at Basket Brigade, but I've not run one. But if you've run one, I'd be totally all over that. Like it might even be that Gills might not be your focus. It's just that I find that you give the concept of creating new young leaders in the world. I mean, like that can't remember her name now. That young Scandinavian girl who's just causing massive ripples in the world around global warming and stuff.
She's amazing.
She's an amazing reference point right now. And you could say, look, do you know about? I should know her name. I just slipped my head a minute. You could reference her and say, look, that's our outcome is for teenagers to start to influence the world. Why not? But yeah, if you've got massive references to Basket Brigade or other things that you've done, yeah, definitely go with that because that's the more personal you can make it, the better. And if a trainer's listening to us thinking, I don't have any personal stuff, then maybe now would be a good time to go out and do something that is contribution based, and you can talk about it at a foundation talk. And I'm not trying to guilt trip anyone. It's just like the benefit you'll get from it personally is genuinely life changing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. Any more?
Fantastic. Thank you. It was amazing.
I'm gonna go work on my foundation talk.
Well, I expect 1 and 2. Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah. Just kidding.
Yeah, and also one of the things that James Green was talking about, as we, people, particularly people that thought, that bit went really well, or that was generally a successful outcome, love to share that back into the community. Maybe we'll have a little section that's just foundation related, because I want best practice, because I know this can be improved on. There's no doubt about it. Just what works for me. So I think the more we can evolve it for everyone, where we can just raise the bar generally, then more money for the foundations. That's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if it's not the whole foundation talk, but if there's a little bit that they know works really well, and we add all of those little bits together, we can create amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool.
Presentation.
I will. I'll get this sorted out, and I'll get the video posted up in some form or other. And well, thanks for asking me. As you can tell, I do like talking about it.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, if the girls' timing doesn't work, you can always come down to Sydney and.
Exactly. So I will definitely in the next 18 months, 2 years, I'm definitely going to do to one of them. So that's my verbal commitment on this video. So yeah, job done.
Cool. I'll hold you to that.
Good stuff. Good. All right. You two, thanks very much, and to all the other trainers, thanks for watching, and see you all soon. Bye now.
Okay. Bye.